DiCaprio as Jay Gatsby is an interesting case. As I said earlier, I don't think they introduced one of the greatest American novels ever written, 1925's The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, is now 100 years old. And over the years, there have been a few attempts to adapt this book to the big screen. But for the sake of this adaptation episode, we're going to focus on the specific 2013 adaptation of the same name, directed by Baz Luhrmann. Now, The Great Gatsby as a novel is pretty short, so there isn't a lot of sections of the book that had to be cut out to fit into the runtime of a film. However, there is one key scene in the book that the filmmakers decided to cut. The movie is framed in the sense that we have the narrator of the film, Nick Carraway, played by Tobey Maguire, explaining what happened to him in his time in New York, but he's at a psychological institution while he's writing what happened, and the movie ends with this, but it also begins with it as well. So the entire thing is framed like that. But the book isn't that way. The character of Nick Carraway still is narrating the story, but it is framed as he has returned from New York back to the Midwest, and he's explaining what happened to him. He's not in a psychological institution. But what does this mean for the story? Well, there's a key moment at the end of the story in the book where he confronts the villain of the story, Tom Buchanan, played in the film by Joel Edgerton, about what happened to Mr. Gatsby. But the movie decides to keep this as just a deleted scene when it should have kept it in there, because that wraps up the entire book, because the entire book is about how you have all these nasty characters, but unfortunately the worst of the worst gets away in the end. As far as sequences that were changed from book to film, Mr. Gatsby's introduction is complicated in the movie, because they play it out in the film of how he pretty much stumbles into Nick, and he's looking for Nick in his party, like maybe something like that. He finds him, and we have the iconic shot from the film of Mr. Gatsby looking at the camera, looking at the audience, looking at Nick with the glass of champagne. But the book isn't like this at all. Nick finds Mr. Gatsby through conversation. He's at the same party as he is in the film, sure, but he's sitting at a table, he's talking with someone who seems to know him from World War I, and then all of a sudden it's revealed that this is the mysterious Mr. Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald, I think, with this sequence was trying to show that the host of the party is not necessarily the same as the party he is putting on. Another sequence that was changed, I think unnecessarily, was the confrontation between Mr. Gatsby and Mr. Buchanan in the downtown apartment to begin the third act of the book. Now, in the movie, what happens is that they turn it into it's still a tense scene in the book and in the movie, sure, but they turn it into an almost fight sequence where Mr. Gatsby snaps and we get to see him almost fight Tom. We see Leonardo DiCaprio's acting range. Okay. But that isn't how it is in the book. In the book, it is two wealthy men grilling each other with their words, not with their actions. And in movies, it's hard to show this, but when you have really good actors, you can do it. You don't need to resort to the same old, oh, it's about to be a fight scene. The last sequence that was changed was the funeral for Mr. Gatsby. In the movie, they turn it into this moment where all the press is there. They're trying to get shots of Mr. Gatsby as he's just been murdered. Nick has to chase them away, and then we don't really get to see his actual funeral. In the book, there is a reference to gossip in the newspapers and things like that. So that might have been why they had that little part with the press showing up in the movie. Okay, whatever. But in the book, there are very few people at Mr. Gatsby's actual funeral. And what Fitzgerald is saying here is that there were very few people that really cared about this character. The narrator in the novel and film, Nick Carraway, is not depicted as someone who should be in an asylum. The movie's invention of this part of his story is quite unnecessary. You can have him narrate the story just like in the book, but you don't have to have him do this. Also, the movie tries too hard to make you feel bad for the character and relate with him, where Fitzgerald keeps dropping hints that this narrator might not be as honest and as sentimental as he might want you to think he is. The main character, Mr. Jay Gatsby, and the villain of the story, Tom Buchanan, are pretty much the same character. Yes, Gatsby is new money, where he went from rags to riches, whereas Buchanan is of a wealthy family and inherited all that he has. But both are in some way stuck in the past. Buchanan is trying to keep this old world idea of the elite, the aristocracy, and of old money alive. The movie shows this well, as he can act cultured and proud all he wants, but he's just another member of the vulgar crowd. Joel Edgerton and the filmmakers did a great job at bringing the brutish and despicable character from page to screen. Leonardo DiCaprio as Jay Gatsby is an interesting case. As I said earlier, I don't think they introduced him well in the film, and they botched the confrontation with Tom downtown. I think this is a case where the character was done halfway right by the filmmakers. Mr. Gatsby is partially made into something he isn't, but he stays the optimistic yet delusional man from West Egg reaching out for the green light. As we've seen, the 2013 adaptation of The Great Gatsby falls short in a lot of areas. It makes unnecessary changes and tries to mold the story into what the filmmakers wanted it to be, rather than honoring what the author of the book intended for it to always be. There are some really good things about the movie, as it does match the gilded nature of the book, and it does still make the statement of the artificiality and delusional nature of Mr. Gatsby, but also the other characters inside the story as well. But it still falls short in too many areas for me to say that it is a good adaptation of the book. 2013's The Great Gatsby gets a 6 out of 10. Hello everyone, welcome back to Movies with Michael. I hope you enjoyed yet another episode of my Adaptation Series, and if you did, please remember to leave a like on this video and comment down below how well of a job you think the filmmakers did when adapting this book to the big screen. I understand that I could not get to all the details and nitpicks in this video today, but also remember to subscribe to this channel and click the notification icon to be notified about my latest videos. That's all for now, and I'll see you all next time.